You're me, Louie T. Welcome to the 2018 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names in the 2018 NFL Draft. We're talking wide receivers, and this is a guy that is climbing up draft boards as we speak. Right now, he just went up another spot. And every time I look at someone's mock draft, from the last time they did a mock draft, this is a guy that is just going up. He's ascending, and honestly, I don't know why it is. I know the combine was extraordinary. I walked away from the combine very impressed with what he was able to do. However, it's the combine. I mean, we know better than that, right? We should, at least. If you've been doing this long enough, if you've been watching football long enough, if you've been following the combine long enough, then you know not to put too much stock into what you see and look at the tape more than anything else. But even there lies a problem with the next receiver we're going to talk about, because yeah, his quarterback situation may have been the worst of any of these receivers that are potential prospects in the upcoming draft. His quarterback situation was abysmal. He didn't lose not one, but two quarterbacks. He was on his third string quarterback for the vast majority of this season. He lost his starting quarterback in the first game of the season, lost the backup quarterback like the second or third game, and had to ride out the rest of the season with a third stringer that had no business on the football field. So it was bad, but Maryland wide receiver DJ Moore made the best of it. And I think his measurables and his speed, his explosiveness and dynamic ability, and what he showcased at the combine, jumping out of the building with his vert and his broad and then running really fast, I think has put him in a position where a lot of people like him. And so we're going to talk about his pros and start off by talking why DJ Moore could ultimately end up being the first wide receiver. Yes, I did not stutter. The first wide receiver to go off the board in the 2018 NFL Draft. Let's talk about his pros right now. So we start with his measurables at 6 feet, 210 pounds. I think that's a solid NFL wide receiver size. If you're talking about standard wide receiver size, that's a good one right there at 6 feet, 210. A good weight. Evenly distributed. I think he's got a tough, physical, solid lower body. And the 6 feet, if you're gonna be regular average size, I think 6 feet is the cutoff for that. So I think he gets a pass on measurables. There are a lot of receivers in this particular draft that are among the best that don't actually meet that criteria with height and a combination of weight. He is one of the few that checks both boxes, and so I think he gets by with the 6 feet, 210 measurable as a check. Hands. He can catch the football. There are some times, though, that I question just how good his hands are. He does snatch the football out of the air. You do see that on tape at times. We did see a very impressive performance where I don't think the ball ever hit the ground with him at the combine. When you turn on the tape, there's a little bit of a different story there. A ball does hit the ground. As a matter of fact, sometimes the ball doesn't hit the ground. It finds a defender and it goes the other way. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I think his hands are good enough. So I'm going to give him the go-ahead on the hands. Even though I've got some questions about his hands a little bit, I'll go ahead and give him the check mark there as well. Speed, that's something that's not up for debate, okay? 4.42 speed that he displayed at the combine is also transferable to the tape. You see the game speed, it matches up. We know this guy can run, and that is a fact, and he went ahead and confirmed that at the combine. And so speed is not an issue with DJ Moore. He's got plenty of it to spare, and that's one of the reasons teams really like him as we get closer to the 2018 NFL Draft. Quickness and suddenness. He's got some quicks to him. I don't know if it translates necessarily, and again, it's so hard. His tape was the hardest to watch. It's so hard to evaluate sometimes some of these receivers with, he was the guy on the Maryland offense. He was the one guy that teams went in, and they weren't good as a football team. Okay, once they had all these injuries at the quarterback position, you looked around the rest of that team, they had a good running back, and he was the one guy at the receiver position that scared you, and he was the one guy that you had to defend. And if you could somehow take him out of the game, you were going to take Maryland out of the game completely. And so knowing that the quarterback isn't very good, knowing that you're the one threat at the receiver position, it's hard to get open sometimes. And I found it tough. They tried to get him the football in every way imaginable. Slip screen, tunnel screen, jet sweeps, backfield, you know, anything they could do, slants, hitches, goes. they tried to get DJ Moore involved in this offense. They tried their hardest, so I give them credit for that. But some of that really, because they were just trying to get it in his hands early because of the quarterback situation, it kind of took away from his ability to just run routes and me naturally see him run routes. And I didn't think some of his routes that he did run that I did get to see him, I didn't think they were not necessarily winners. I didn't look at that route and say, okay, that's a winner all day, every day. I don't care who the corner is. That's breaking a dude off. That's winning at the stem of a route. That's going to win 9 times out of 10. I didn't see that necessarily, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But his quickness and his suddenness, I don't think those are lacking. But I do think the route running ability is something to question. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Acceleration. The 4.42 is legit speed and acceleration is there. So those two things kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. If you can open up and run, the acceleration most likely is there. That's the case with DJ Moore. That Texas game, when he actually had competent quarterbacking, that's probably the best you're going to get out of DJ Moore in 2017. And to me, if you want to see what DJ Moore brings to the table, the Texas game, even though there was a big mistake in there that we'll talk about a little bit later on, that's probably going to give you the best indication as to why teams are so in love with him at this point in the process. Physicality, he's a physical guy. He's got some physicality to him, not afraid to go over the middle of the football field. He's got a feisty edge to him. I like that about him, and that kind of adds to the toughness that's also a pro, where you just feel like, okay, I don't worry about this guy being shy going over the middle of the field or trying to run through contact. This is not a guy that's going to run out of bounds. He's going to get that extra yard or two. If it's 3rd and 7, he catches a 5-yard pass. He's the kind of guy that's going to fight and try to get those extra 2 yards and get the first down. So it's a physicality, it's a mindset, it's a toughness that you like with DJ Moore. Leaping ability, high point in the football. For a guy that's only 6 feet, he does go up and go for the football. There are a couple of times in the end zone where you see him extend for the football, try to make a play. Doesn't necessarily get both feet in bounds, but he comes down with the football and he extends and he high points and he locates. So those are all things that I think he does extremely well in that particular situation. As you get to versatility, you can move this guy around, and they did that at Maryland, and they didn't have a choice because they knew they needed to get him the football, and it wasn't the most ideal situation at the quarterback position. So they had to move him around all over the football field just to get him in situations where they could get him the football. So he does bring versatility just from a standpoint of being able to line up at any position on the football field, which includes running back if necessary. Sideline awareness. There are a couple of times where there are some balls, and again, when you're dealing with a 3rd string quarterback, the ball's not going to be placed where it needs to on most passes. He had to make some extraordinary catches, and like I said, not all of them always resulted in him getting feet down in bounds, which they were impossible. I don't care who you were, you weren't getting 2 feet in bounds, but he knew where the sidelines were, and he was trying his damnedest. And so there were catches, though, a number of them that I saw where he did get his feet down in bounds. So I do know that I can watch and tell that the sideline awareness is there with DJ Moore. So I'm comfortable enough in my assessment and saying, yeah, he knows where the sideline is and knows he has to get 2 in bounds. Production. Even though the quarterback position has been really ragged for Maryland these last few years with DJ Moore at the university, he still has put up big numbers every single year. And that's a testament to DJ Moore. And whether it's a hitch, whether it's a bubble, whether it's a jet sweep, doesn't matter, okay? He's finding ways to create offense for this Maryland Terps football team. And so you got to give him credit for what he has endured while at Maryland. You got to give him credit for still putting up numbers while at school. So you go from there to his cons, and there are several things that I got to discuss, because while I like DJ Moore, I don't love him as much as I thought I was going to when I turned on the tape. And again, the tape can be misleading, and I think that's why some teams are pushing him up draft boards, because of the situation he endured at Maryland. But I've still got questions, not enough answers, so let's see if we can get some with some of these cons. So route running with DJ Moore, I don't love his route running, and I kind of alluded that earlier. Now I'll kind of elaborate briefly. He didn't run a ton of routes at Maryland because it was really tough to get him in situations where he could run routes and confidently get the football from the quarterback, because the position was so poorly played at Maryland. And so there are a lot of instances where they just say, hey, look, man, don't even run a route. We're going to put 2 receivers in front of you. You're going to get the football. They're going to block. And we're going to set up this wide receiver screen. Or, look, just run a hitch. Just turn around. After they stop the ball, they're kind of playing off. We'll just get it to you. You try to make something happen. Or, hey, man, run this slant. And like I said, I didn't think his slants, none of his routes really wowed me. He rounded off routes. He looked like he was too casual on some of these routes. Maybe he didn't think he was getting the football. Maybe he wasn't designed to get the football on some of these routes. But in any event, I wasn't all that floored with some of the routes that I did see him run. So from that standpoint, I think route running is something that he can get better at. I don't think it's a big issue, and I don't think it's something that he lacks necessarily. I just want to see him do it better, if you get where I'm coming from there. I think he can be better as a route runner. Run after catch. To me, he's not that dynamic as a run after catch guy. I think he's a straight line guy. He's not making anybody miss. He's not juking anybody. He's physical with the football. He'll run you over, he'll lower his shoulder. But is he making guys miss? No, I didn't see that on tape. I saw a guy that wanted to run the daylight. I didn't see a guy that was looking to create daylight. And so he was running away from contact, not running to juke a guy. So again, he'll lower his shoulder. Not saying that he's looking to run away from a guy that's trying to hit him. He'll lower his shoulder. He has no problem doing that, but he wasn't breaking anybody off out in space either. So I don't think his run after the catch is that dynamic. That 4.42 speed, you're not going to get to see it unless he catches a football in a dead sprint on a slant where he wins off the line of scrimmage. Football's thrown in a place where he can catch it and not have to break stride, and now you can see him open up. You're not going to see him break 2 dudes off and then get to the outside and get to open up. You're not going to see that from DJ Moore very often. Catch radius, he's 6 feet, 210. The arms aren't that long, and you saw him in some instances not come up with footballs because maybe his arms weren't quite long enough. Speaking of which, ball tracking, I don't love that from DJ Moore either. There's a game against Texas, first game of the season as a matter of fact. One of the first plays of that game, matter of fact, where football's thrown to him maybe a little early. Okay, maybe he didn't get his head turned around soon enough. Maybe the ball was a little too high. Yeah, it was hot. But what I don't want you to do is tip it into the air and have it get picked off. That's ball tracking, okay? Don't go up into the air with one hand. Either you're going up with 2 and you're gonna snag it, or if you got confidence in your one hand catching ability, then do that, but don't tip it in the air and have it get picked up. All right, and again, that's some of that catch radius that I just alluded to. If it's not long enough to go up and do that, then don't do that. Then you got another pick 6 against UCF. Ball tips off of his hands, hits his face mask into the air. A freebie for Mike Hughes as he takes it the other way for a touchdown in the pick 6. Again, if you're my best receiver, we see this a lot with AJ Green, one of those guys that Andy Dalton forces the football to. He'll throw a pick or 2 and they'll get returned to the crib. He'll make mistakes throwing it to AJ Green. I don't want my big time receiver allowing balls to get picked off if he's got a chance to catch it. You know, it's one thing if the quarterback throws a bad ball, forcing it to me. It's a totally different issue when I throw it to you and it hits off your hands. Whether it's my fault or not, if it hits off your hands as a receiver, you've always been taught, if it hits your hands, you gotta catch the football. And with DJ Moore, too many times, balls tipping off his hands into the air and it's caroming right into the arms of a defender who's taking it the other way for 6. So I don't love that. I don't love that at all. His blocking. I don't love him as a blocker. I think he can give better effort as a blocker. I think he's physical enough to be a better blocker. I need him to be a better blocker. Just simply put, if you're not going to block better, then you need to start running guys off. But I need more effort from him as a blocker to help his teammates gain more yards on any given play. And then dependability and clutchness. I don't know if I trust DJ Moore in a 3rd and 7 spot to go get me a football and make a play for me. I think I can. And I think I should feel more confident, but again, the tape doesn't make me feel confident. And again, that's not really all his fault. So it's just one of those situations where the only reason I'm knocking him for it is because I didn't get to see it. And the only reason I didn't get to really see it is because they weren't in a ton of ball games to be in situations where he had to make big catches and his quarterback wasn't good enough to get him the football in tough situations. And really, he was one of the few guys that could make plays on that offense. And other teams knew that, so he was getting bracket coverage a lot of times, and so tough to make plays. I just didn't see it enough. Translation, I didn't see it enough to be comfortable enough to say, yep, on 3rd and 6, I know he's going to make a play and come down with the football and get the necessary yardage to move the sticks. So DJ Moore for me is intriguing because if everything checks out with him, if everything is legit, and the reason we didn't get to see it all put together at Maryland was because of the poor quarterback play, then he's a stud and he's going to be everything that everybody is projecting him to be. But if there are some holes in his game, which I think there may be, I don't know if all of the hoopla and hype surrounding DJ Moore fits in this necessary situation. So we're going to see. I'm not as high on DJ Moore as I was after I left the combine when I put on the tape. And again, the tape can be misleading. So maybe I need to take it with a grain of salt, and I have. But at the same time, some of the things that I did see on tape wasn't very pleasing to my eyes. So we'll see what happens with DJ Moore. I don't think he should be the first pick in terms of receivers in this draft. That is for certain, but we'll see what happens. He's probably going to end up going in the first round, and I think he's got first round talent. So we'll see what happens with DJ Moore and some of these other receivers. But if you want to see what I gave DJ Moore in terms of a rating, check it out on LouieTNetwork.net and compare him to the rest of the receivers and the other prospects that I've broken down in the Draft Prospects 101 series. It's going to do it for your man Louie T. It's going to also do it for DJ Moore in his Draft Prospects 101 breakdown. Remember, we're changing the game over here, period. Come back and join me because I got plenty more wide receivers to break down. So don't you go anywhere. I'm your man Louie T, signing off. See you next time. Have a good one.